Well, good morning, everybody. I hope you're having a great day. At least I hope you're having a great start to your day. And I want to talk to you this morning about something that I think is very important, and I think that it's not something that you quite figure out until you get to be a little bit older. And I say a little bit older, I mean past college age. And that is, who do you think you are? I mean, who are you really? Do you know yourself very well? Well, a lot of us don't, and it becomes a question that has become quite perplexing, and it plagues many people to the point of losing sleep. There becomes an identity crisis ensues, and then a lot of confusion. Bad mistakes are made because people think that they need to prove something to themselves and everybody else around them as to who they are. One of the things I just can't stand is when bad behavior is dismissed as, well, this is just who I am. Ill manners and uncouth behavior is not justified by someone saying, this is just who I am. Understand there's a difference between what we do and who we are. People oftentimes want to identify themselves by what they do, just in general behavior, or what they do behind closed doors, or what they decide to do with their body, or what they do for work, and they say, this is who I am. No, that's what you do. What you do and who you are two different things. Now, you can be shaped by the things that you do, and that can be good and that can be bad. But the real question comes down to, who are you at your very core? In your soul, who are you? And who you are comes down to how you think. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Right? I mean, stop and think about that for a second. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. You are how you think. You are what you think. And that's basically it. Now, here's an illustration I want to give you. Yesterday, I talked to you about Ellis Island and how Ellis Island can teach us about judging others. Well, I'm going to give you another illustration from Ellis Island, and it's just too good to pass up. I love it. I probably have a couple more I can glean from the book that I read by Vincent J. Canado called American Passage: A History of Ellis Island. I highly recommend that book. But here's a very good illustration of what I'm talking about. If you'll ask, if you ever run across some very old people who claim to have come over by way of Ellis Island, which, by the way, is becoming very far few between, because most of them have probably died by now. They would be very old, especially during the critical stages of those years at Ellis Island, the turn of the century. And but for many years, grandparents would tell their children about coming over on a boat, going through the stations at Ellis Island to be inspected, and they would divulge to their grandchildren that their names have been changed. It's not uncommon to hear that someone from a different country originally had a different name, and now they have it's been changed for all practical purposes. But it was being told to many children and grandchildren that the reason their name was changed is because it was changed at Ellis Island. And here's a couple of stories about how that went. For starters, there was a Jewish man that was interviewed whose name was Sean Ferguson. Now, Sean Ferguson sounds like a very Scottish name, all right? It was asked by him when he was interviewed. He said, well, how did you get the name Sean Ferguson? He says, well, when I went through Ellis Island, I was in line, and they asked me, because there was a lot of confusion and a lot of disruption, people were tired. He said, they asked me what my name was, and I said, Sean He says, I'm going to get this right. Shern Ferguson. I think I'm saying that right. Shern Ferguson. And so they thought they heard Sean Ferguson. Well, my best understanding of this is if I'm pronouncing it right, and please forgive me if I'm not, but Shern Ferguson in Yiddish means I forgot. So when they asked him what his name was, he basically said in Yiddish, I forgot. Okay? He forgot his name. Alright? Forgot his name. Now, this is what I'm talking about. Sometimes in life you'll forget who you are. In fact, you may come to a point when you ask yourself, did I ever really know who I was anyway? I mean, because you think you might know, you might be really confident of it in your early years, but as you go through trials and the vicissitudes of life, the vagaries, you begin to, as you get squeezed between the vices, you begin to question yourself, and then when you have to stop and ask yourself who you are, you might come up with the same thing that Sean Ferguson did, which is, I forgot. I forgot who I am. I forgot who I am. Here's another story. A Jewish man going through the line, was told to put his name in the space, and he was told by the inspector, put your mark. So he put YORMARK, your mark, and he was forever after that called Your Mark. Now, and there's one more I want to give you, and that is there was a Chinese man interviewed, and his name was Sam Ting, and that name does not sound, at least it doesn't sound halfway Chinese, right? When he was asked how he got the name, he would tell his friends and his family, when I was at Ellis Island, I was in line and I was confused, and when they asked me what my name was after the guy in front of me, I said, Same Ting. And so it was put down that his name was Sam Ting. Now, you might find that humorous, you might get a little chuckle out of that, but here's the thing about these stories. That's all they are. They're just stories. Just stories. You know why? Because at Ellis Island, names were never changed. Immigrants changed their name on their own. It was their own doing. There was only one exception at Ellis Island, and that was when a woman came over dressed as a man. And she dressed up as a man to expedite her as she navigated through the world and whatever she was doing, she dressed up as a man to expedite things. It was just easier for her to do that. She knew that, and they allowed her to keep her male name. That was the only exception, but they didn't really change her name. And so here's what I want to tell you. As you begin to ask yourself, who am I really? I don't even know who I am. You've been through things. You get to now. I'm gonna be very transparent with you, and that is, I did not really know who I was until after I was 40 years old. And you know why? Because I was going through things in my life that required me to stop and take stock of who I was, the decisions I was making, and I had to decide, am I going to save myself and my family and the things I love and care about, or am I going to keep repeating history? And if I repeat history, I'm going to be doing things that don't really reflect who I am. And why would I even begin to question who I am? Well, why does anybody question who they are? Well, I'll tell you, here's what it looks like when you don't know who you are. Your responses are no longer organic. You laugh at things that aren't necessarily funny. You constantly try to please people. You don't even know what you like and don't like. You try to cultivate hobbies and hang around people that you don't necessarily care about or you like. You say things that you don't necessarily believe, but you think you might for a while. And so on and so forth. That's what it looks like when you're not being who you are. And and you know it. There's something inside of you that feels it, and you might not be able to quite put your finger on it, but there's something there. And this is why a lot of people, I believe, go through midlife crises and personality changes and start making bad decisions. In some cases, people turn their life around for the better. So, but if that's what it looks like when you're not being who you really are. And people become indignant at things that they have no reason to be angry about, and they know it. But inside they're not as angry as they want you to think they are. People act happier than what they actually are. Being a people pleaser, it will be one of the things that propel you in the wrong direction. That's one of the greatest reasons that people don't know who they are. They spend a lifetime pleasing people. They might have grown up in a home where the mother or father was very oppressive, and you were expected to live up to a standard that was not suited for you. That had no relevance to who you are, to how you think. Bruce Lee once told his son Brandon, "I was not put here to live up to your expectations, and you weren't put here to live up to mine." And I've told my kids that before. Don't try to live up to my expectations. Don't get me wrong. I want my kids to make me proud. And I want my kids to make me proud because I know they're making positive choices, moving in the right direction. However, we sometimes vicariously live through our children by trying to replicate something in them that we couldn't do ourselves. And so it's counterproductive because it develops negative attributes in an individual's psyche. So you might have grown up this way. It might have been cultivated in you. And there are people who claim to be themselves and behave badly, and maybe that's actually who they are. And I'm not saying that being yourself is totally a good thing. There are people who are themselves, and it's not good, and they need to work at changing that. But here's the great news in all of this, is that you have the power and you have the ability to change who you are if you currently don't like what you're seeing. If you're taking stock, if you're assessing yourself, and you're coming up short and you don't like what you see, you have the ability to change that. You have the power, and you know how you do it? You change the way you think. You change the way you think. This video can't possibly cover all the ways that you do that. But you have the power to change the way you think. So, moving forward here, the Ellis Island immigrants who would claim that their names were changed to Ellis Island did not tell the truth. They blamed someone else. They blamed the inspectors. They blamed the workers at the island. When in truth, they're the ones who changed their name. If somehow you find out that you are not living in accordance with your own values, and you don't like who you are, stop blaming others. Blame yourself. Because even though a lot of people have helped you probably get to where you are, and maybe you just didn't have the resources or the know-how to change anything, you weren't powerless. You helped yourself. You didn't take matters into your own hands, and you have the power to do it now. And that's why I think it takes a lot of people a lot of time, like it did me, to get to your 40s to find out that you're not liking who you really are. It takes quite a bit of honesty. You have to be honest with yourself and say, I come up short here, but I'm good at these other things. Don't just list negative attributes about yourself when you're making your assessment. List them. Be honest. List them. If you're insecure, if you are narcissistic, if you are self-centered, if you are unconcerned about other people, if you know that you're unreciprocal, I don't know if I said that right, but if you know that you're that way, be honest about it. But be also honest about the good things in yourself. And that's what you need to do. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. That's what you can learn about from the Ellis Island immigrants, about who you are. And don't get me wrong, you have to, if you think, well, I've just got to be honest in all the things I say, think, and do now, and I don't have to laugh at things I don't think are funny. I don't have to act like I like people I don't. Understand something here. This is just a little disclaimer here. Understand that acting is a large part of life. It's how you accrue social currency. So I don't want you to think that when you do this little thing that you're going to do, when you sit down and really look at yourself and examine your life, don't think for a second that gives you the right to walk on other people if you find out that you have a negative bent. This is about cultivating something positive, not cultivating something negative. But still, you have to understand that a large part of life is acting to accrue social currency. That's all I'm going to say on that. But I really hope it helped, because it's when you start to know who you really are, that's when you become comfortable in your own skin. And that's when you become more self-confident. And that's when you become more at peace with who you are. And you become more flexible, more malleable, and you're able to handle the bends in the road with more precision than what you were before. I hope that helps, guys. I've got to go to work. I hope it interested you. If it did, hit the thumbs up and like this video. But if you haven't subscribed, please do so, and check out some other videos. One of the other videos that might help apply to this one that I have is one on peer pressure. That might have some application to what I just talked about today. So check that one out. Anyway, guys, I appreciate you. I don't take you for granted. I appreciate your viewership and your likes and your comments. And I will catch you on the other side. All right. Bye-bye.